I'm Suhayla El-Bushra. I'm a playwright. I also write for TV and film sometimes.
Okay, let's just start with, you know, a little bit of background, early life, early career. How was it for you, and what was the very first thing that made you think maybe you wanted to write, maybe even earn a living from it?
I used to write a lot as a child. I really loved creative writing, and I used to write stories on my own quite a lot. But I stopped thinking about it as something I could do, or maybe I never thought about it as a job, actually. I don't think I did think about it. I used to want to be an actress when I was about 16, and I went to the Tricycle Youth Theatre. I think it must have been about 1990 or something like that. And I was in a play there, and I really, really loved that. And I wanted to act, but I soon realised that I didn't quite have the confidence really and the will to push myself in that. So I kind of gave up on it after that. I sort of gave up on all theatre, and I ended up becoming a drama teacher. And I didn't start writing until my late 20s, actually. And I did a short filmmaking course, and I wrote a short film as part of that. And that's when I thought, oh, actually, I'd really like to do this. And that I wanted to write things which were collaborative and that other people could make. And so I started kind of playing around with scripts, not really getting very far. And then I got onto a screenwriting master's at Leeds Metropolitan University. And the reason why I did that was because I saw an advert for it, and they were offering bursaries from what was then called the Film Council. So you could actually train for free to do this course.
Those were the days.
It seems absolutely incredible now that such a scheme existed. But it was, and I had a friend who lived in Leeds, my best friend from school, and she said, you can come and stay in my spare room. Wow. So it just kind of happened that I did that. So I went and did this master's, which was 2 years long. It was the most incredible thing that I ever did, you know, in terms of it changed my life, really. I didn't think, it just gave me the space to write. I had like 2 years where I just wrote from the minute I woke up in the morning until the minute I went to bed, and I didn't get bored of it or find it stressful. I just loved it. We had links with the industry, so we had people coming in to talk to us about, you know, writing for telly, writing your own show, writing for soaps, writing films, all of that stuff. It just made it seem like it was a possibility, that this was something that you could do as a living, rather than just a hobby. And an agent came to talk to us just about what it was like to be an agent and how to get an agent. And we all sent her outlines, and she read mine and she liked it, and we met up and she took me on. So I've been with my agent as a result of doing that course. So really that was the thing that kind of got me thinking I can do this.
And also to have a course that opened doors in that way. I guess when one's looking for anything in terms of training or whatever, it's important to think about those things too, isn't it, really? What opportunities that they can give.
Completely. It's so important. And I think we often look at writing as this kind of, I think it's dressed up as a magical thing that only special people can do. And that you're kind, you know, it's this thing that just happens from the ether, and it's sort of this mystical experience that, and it's not that. It's actually, it's a real craft, and the way to be a good writer is to sit down and work on something for a really long time and draft it and redraft it. And it's not about just kind of having this gift and waiting for these moments of inspiration to strike. So I think courses which make you sit and do that, but also are really practical in terms of going, right, this is what a script editor does, these are the different jobs that you can do, this is what a dramaturg does, this is how it works in all these industries, and actually just demystify it. Because I think when you break it down like that, then you go, oh, actually, I can.
I think I think that goes for creativity in general. There's so many people who don't consider what they do creative, or indeed think they can think creative. And we sort of get that bashed out of us at school almost. You know, they're the creative ones, they're not the, do you know what I mean? People, and just having you say things like that, I think saying what you've just said, I think opens that out for people to think outside the box and think that they can be. Perhaps lockdown will bring out the creativity in all of us, you never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone can do it. It's about kind of explaining it and unpacking it for people.
So what did you, in terms of the film course, did you find that really helped when you came into thinking about writing? Was the economy of film something that you thought you brought with you, or is it very different?
Yeah, I mean, I started off wanting to write film and telly, and I think mainly telly actually, because TV is the thing that I watch most of all, like most people, obviously. And I hadn't really thought about theatre for quite a long time. The process of television is you're so cut off from everybody else in the creative process. You're cut off from the director, you don't talk to the actors, and you go through several different people, or your work does, and it's kind of like Chinese whispers, you know, you get this weird feedback from people. And it's quite, you don't always understand what people are talking about or why they're asking you to do things, whereas if you're writing a play, you're in the room with the people who are actually making it, with the actors and the director and the set designer, and it doesn't feel like a kind of random order or instruction. If you get asked to change something, it all comes out of a very natural conversation that you're all having, and you're all working towards the same goal. Absolutely.
So in terms of after telly, you did the National Theatre Studio. You were resident.
Right.
How was that?
I was writer in residence at the National Theatre Studio for a year, 2015 to 16, I think it was, and it was just amazing. It was brilliant. I had been there to do some workshops and readings for things, but how it works is you get a room, you get this amazing office in the National Theatre Studio, which is the place where everything gets developed. All the shows that they put on get developed, and loads of other stuff that doesn't end up on the stages also gets developed. And there's several rooms, and so there's several groups of artists all there each week. There's normally about sort of 4 or 5, 3 or 4 writers who are on attachment, who are there for, you know, a few weeks or a month or whatever, and then you're there for a year. So it's this huge creative space, which is just full of people coming in and out, and they're all working on a real variety of projects, and you get to go and see them working on them and go to sharings. You just walking into the kitchen at lunchtime, there's just this incredible collection of people, actors, directors, that you just have a chat with over a sandwich, and it, you know, I got to do that for a year, which was just amazing. And you get an insight into how an enormous building like that operates. So you can go to some of the meetings and you sort of see how it works, and it's so interesting because you obviously, the stuff that you don't think about as somebody who's outside the building, to watch it from the inside. And actually it was really heartening because they are amazing in that building, and they really care, and they are very aware of a lot of things that are happening in the rest of theatre, and they're very supportive, and it was really, really reassuring and really heartening. And I had it was just, you know, so lucky and such an amazing experience.
And did something come out of that for you in terms of a piece?
Yes, well, I had already been commissioned to adapt a play called The Suicide by Nikolai Erdmann. So I'd already started working on that when I got the residency, and so I was working on that while I was there, and then it was on towards the end of my time there, and I think that was invaluable actually, because I think if you have a play on at the National, it's so massive. To walk into that building and go into that rehearsal room, and it's huge, you know, these are really massive productions, and I think if you're a writer it can feel quite daunting because there's so many people involved. So to already have kind of been a part of the building for a bit beforehand was really, really valuable and really helpful.
Yeah. So just tell us a bit about Pigeons at Royal Court. How did that come about? And
wow, I mean, that was a big break for me, really.
amazing.
That was a huge break. I wrote a short, the very first play that I wrote was called Cuckoo. And that was the one that I developed at this short playwriting night in Brighton. And as a result of that, it got sent to the Bush, and Josie Rourke read it and she liked it, but she wasn't going to program it. But she said, can you do a book of the 66 books in the King James Bible? She was doing a project where she got 66 writers to do a short scene based on each of the books. So I did one of those, and it was Beware of False Prophets, and I started this scene about these two boys as part of that. And then I got accepted onto a Royal Court writers group that was taken by Leo Butler, and we had to write a play at the end of that and submit it, and it would be read by the Royal Court. And so I turned the short play that I'd written for 66 books into a longer play called Pigeons, and sort of sent it in, and didn't think anything would come of it in terms of it being on at the Royal Court. In fact, they were really clear to say, don't think that you're going to get any of your plays on here, because it won't happen, probably won't happen. But they read it, and I went in to meet Carissa Hope Lynch, who was working in the script place at the time, and she said that they weren't going to do it. She turned it down, but it was the nicest turning down meeting that I've ever had with anyone, because she really understood it and she really got it, and she was really nice about it, and I felt really good about the fact that she'd read it and had said they weren't going to do it. So I kind of thought, well, I'll take it elsewhere and see if I can get it put on anywhere else. In the meantime, Vicky Featherstone came, and she had decided to do, as part of her open court season, 6 plays in 6 weeks. So they'd get 6 plays and they'd rehearse them with the same company and put them on. And one of those plays was Pigeons. So they ended up putting it on the main stage.
Brilliant.
As part of that, which was obviously, you know, incredible. And then they decided to take it on a schools tour after that, which surprised me because it was quite close to the knuckle in lots of ways. But they were like, no, it's good. And we did, and that was actually more amazing, I think, than it being on at the Royal Court downstairs, because you got to see the kids experiencing this play and responding to it. And obviously they're so much more exciting an audience than a Royal Court audience, actually.
Because no one
they just sort of were jumping out of their seats and calling out, and they were so involved, and of course you do what afterwards, so you really get to know what they thought about it and how they responded to it and all of that.
So do you like writing for young people? You did the Arabian Nights.
Yeah. I mean, I used to work in a pupil referral unit, so the first 2 plays that I wrote were about young people, the kind of young people that I've been working with, and so since then I have been writing quite a lot for young audiences, and I do really love it.
I do. Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Their responses are, as you say, they're honest, and they want more of a dialogue. It feels to me that they're not inhibited, so there's more of a dialogue with the audience.
Yeah, they're not inhibited, and you can't get away with you know, being ponderous or arty or pretentious. You have to really entertain them. And I think that's why I like writing for young people, because there's no hiding behind anything too fancy pants, you know, or intellectual. It's got to be fun.
So just jumping to that then, so you did, what was the first thing you did at Tri-School was apart from being in the youth theatre, you did Passion?
Yeah, the Kiln Passion.
When was that?
So the Kiln Passion was on, I think it was 2015 maybe, around about then. I think it was 2015. I could be wrong, my memory is shot to pieces, but it was for the young company. But there were lots of different young companies at that point, but this was for the older bracket. I think it was 18 to 25.
Yeah, there still are 4 different.
Yeah. And Emily Lim was directing it, and she was incredible. So she had this group of young people, and there was no there were no guidelines really, or you know, we'd like you to adapt this or do something about this. They just said, we want you to write for this group of people. So could you come in and just watch them and see what happens? So I went to a few of their sessions with Emily, and her area of expertise is working with kind of non-professionals really, and getting them to create work which is of such a high standard. But she's got this amazing way of sort of tapping into people's creativity, which I haven't seen anyone do quite the way that she does it actually. And she just, even like, I think I went to maybe 3 sessions with her, but I felt like I knew that group and what they were capable of really well, because of there was something about the way that she opened them up actually that was really quite remarkable and really fun. And she used a lot of dance and a lot of music, so I knew, I kind of wanted to put that into the script, and they just came up with so much beautiful stuff about who they were and being their age. So when I went away and wrote the Kiln Passion, I had a really strong sense of who they were as performers and the sort of things that they could do. And because it was in the Tricycle, as it was then called, and it was on Kilburn High Road, which is pretty much my favourite place in the world. That high road is amazing. I wanted to do something that was set on that high road, and that really encapsulated the breadth of people that you get on that street, because it's so diverse and so varied. And it was going to be on at Easter, so it was kind of like a sort of Passion, second coming kind of story. Brilliant. Yeah.
I mean, it's so extraordinary, the location of Kiln Theatre as it is now. How important do you think that is, that where it sits and how it responds to its audience?
I mean, the location of the Kiln Theatre it's so much a part of its DNA. And you get some theatres which are so part of their community, and other ones which almost feel like they're kind of plonked there, don't you? But I think with Kiln, or the Tricycle as it was, it's always been a part of that high street. It's never felt like it's never felt imposed on the community, I don't think. It's always felt like it's been a part of it quite naturally, and it's always felt quite open as a space. So even if you're not going to the theatre there to watch a play, it's always felt like you could walk into that bar and sit and have a drink there and not feel out of place or weird. I mean, I remember walking in there when I was 16 and just feeling so at ease and so comfortable there. And we felt that, you know, there were people in plays there, people who'd been on the telly, and then there was us kids who'd come to do the youth theatre there, and it just all felt really natural and a really good place, really easy place to be. And it hasn't stopped feeling like that, which is really special. And I think, like, even though the work that it programs and that it puts on is brilliant, and some of it has transferred, you know, to America, which is great. It's of a high standard, you know, an international standard, but it still keeps that sense of its roots and its community. And I think it's really hard to get that balance right, but it's done it, and I hope it always continues.
Yeah,
to do
so. And in that sense, you're working with us on NW Trilogy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we're allowed to talk about it. We know that at the moment it is postponed, but you know, we Kiln are totally committed to this trilogy. I think more so, even more so now than if that is possible, because I think as we come out of this madness, we've got to celebrate community more than ever. We have to celebrate also, you know, knowing our history and understanding that and moving forward in some way. I mean, what drew you to the project of the trilogy?
Well, so Indu asked if I would be part of this project, and of course I said yes, because I'm from Brent and I love Kiln, and it just felt like, how could I not? But she told me about the Grunwick strike, which is what I'm writing about, and I hadn't actually heard of it before. And it just, as soon as I read about it, it just felt like this incredible, this huge story about these factory workers who'd gone on strike, these female factory workers who were immigrants from East African Asians. And it was kind of a snapshot of a time in history, a very specific time in history, but it felt so relevant to everything that we're going through now. That it just felt so rich. It felt too rich, didn't it? I think we talked about it, didn't we? It felt it was almost too big. There was, to try and find a way into it was really, really difficult, because it was about so much.
Well, it was also a time when these brave women, sort of, when you'd think they would feel like they needed to hide in some way, you know, or being told they should, and suddenly there they were, sort of saying, no, enough is enough, we're not going to take this, and then sort of getting the support of the rest of the unions, and the sort of demonstrations you see and the sort of violence you see on some of the footage. It's a momentous part of trade union history, as well as you know, female history of standing up against that.
But also it really highlights the way, you know, all of these immigrant workers, if you like, are just the backbone of the entire of all our industries. And you know, it's so pertinent now, because they're all the ones who are at the front line, earning the least amount of money.
Exactly.
And this was a really landmark case, and at a time when I think kind of workers' rights are being eroded more than ever. It's so important to sort of stop and look at those landmark moments where people took a stand and said no. I
think so, because I think a lot of age groups don't remember that post Thatcher. No. You know, as I was a teenager, as Thatcher was, you know, I remember watching the footage, because I lived in Leicester, so it was quite big news locally, because the East African connection. So I in terms of the two communities. But I think, you know, if you're younger than, you know, that bit younger, say another 10, 15 years younger, the idea of trade unions is almost like some sort of fairy tale that used to happen. It still is, in a way. And so in terms of that, and in terms of inspiration, who or what inspires you at this moment, do you think?
I think I get inspired, but I think music is the thing that inspires me most, in terms of just moods and feelings. And I think quite often when I write, I might get myself into the mood by listening to something. And they're quite sort of wildly different, what I listen to, depending on what I'm writing or who the character is. But I find that really kind of helps me to...
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, I like that.
Just get into the vibe.
So any tips for aspiring artists, writers coming out at the moment, sort of beginning maybe, or I suppose a lot of artists at the moment who maybe have just be breaking through must feel even more despondent, because it's hard.
I mean, it is. Yeah, just keep doing it. Really, just keep plugging away. It's hard to keep going sometimes, because you're like, oh, what's the point? But I do think that it's a slog. It's a marathon. People often say it's a marathon, you know, it's not a sprint. And I do believe that it takes a really, really long time to find the right people to champion your work. It takes a long time to get your work to a good standard, good enough to be sent out. It takes a long time to find your voice. It takes ages. There's not really, I mean, the odd person gets like a sort of shortcut, you know, bounce. But it doesn't happen that way for most people. It's just get your head down and just keep learning, really, and you'll learn with every new thing that you write or every new draft that you do, and just keep on watching, keep on learning, keep reading plays.
Oh, this has been brilliant. This is fantastic. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you
nice
so
to
much.
have a chat.
No, it's great to have a chat. I look forward to NW Trilogy at Kiln Theatre soon, hopefully, please.
Yeah.
And good luck with everything.